All right, get ready to dive into some serious treasure hunting territory. We're going deep into Blind Frog Ranch in Utah.
Oh, yeah. Blind Frog Ranch, Dwayne Ollinger and his team, they're on a mission to unearth some really fascinating stuff.
It's like a real-life treasure hunt with a scientific twist. We've got some amazing source material for this one.
What have we got?
First, we've got this YouTube video. It captures the moment they uncover a hidden cave entrance. Talk about a heart-stopping discovery.
Wow. And is there more?
There is. We've
Right.
also got excerpts from a blog post that breaks down some of their other big finds. So yeah, we're going to piece it all together.
This is exciting. What's the big question we're trying to answer today?
The big question is, what exactly did they find? And how does it connect to all the legends and mysteries surrounding Blind Frog Ranch? It's a place with stories of lost Spanish gold and ancient civilizations.
You know what gets me about this place?
What's that?
It's the history. The Uinta Basin has this really layered history, both geologically and culturally.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
I mean, imagine this. It was once an inland sea.
Wow, seriously.
That's why they keep encountering these unique rock formations and mineral deposits.
That makes sense. And of course, it's been home to various indigenous tribes for centuries, so you've got this whole tapestry of legends and beliefs woven into the landscape.
Exactly.
And Dwayne Ollinger and his team are convinced that something big is hidden beneath the surface.
Absolutely. They've been searching this area for a while now, and in this deep dive, we're going to focus on two very specific discoveries they made.
Okay, lay it on me.
What's so interesting is that both of these discoveries hint at human activity that could potentially date back centuries.
Okay, now you've got my attention. So their first discovery involves a hidden cave entrance. They were excavating a site with unusually high nitrate concentrations. And
Oh, hold on. High nitrate concentrations. That detail is super important.
why is that?
Well, nitrates are often a byproduct of decomposing organic matter.
Ah, I see where you're going with this.
Right. It hints at something possibly buried or hidden in that specific spot.
And get this, they felt cold air flowing from the ground, which was similar to what they experienced at a collapsed mine entrance at a place called Crow Creek.
So they knew something was up.
Exactly. Chad, Joel, and James. They suited up and cautiously entered this narrow, wet cave.
You know, being in a cave like that, it's a whole other world. Tight squeezes water. It really forces you to push your limits.
So what did they find once they were inside?
Well, first they encountered quartz veins. Then they found multiple tunnels branching off in different directions.
Like a maze.
Exactly. And then they stumbled upon this massive cavern.
Okay, now we're talking. But what was inside the cavern?
What they found inside the cavern is what really blew their minds. Giant cut logs.
Wait, seriously, logs? Underground? How
No.
big are we talking?
Huge. And I mean, far too large to have been brought in through that narrow entrance they used.
That's wild. So how did they get there?
That's the million-dollar question. The team started tossing around theories about possible Aztec connections.
Aztec connections. Tell me more.
Well, there are historical accounts of the Aztecs moving north. And you can't forget all those legends of hidden Aztec treasure in this area.
Intriguing. So did they have any other ideas about how these logs ended up in this hidden cavern?
They started to think that there might be a larger hidden entrance to this cave system, one that maybe collapsed or was sealed off over time.
So the cave they found is just one small part of a much larger network.
Exactly. And here's where the Uinta Basin's unique geology comes into play. This region is known for having extensive cave systems, some potentially stretching for miles.
If that's the case, who knows what else could be hidden within those unexplored tunnels and chambers?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Okay, I need a minute to process all this giant logs in a secret cave. Possible Aztec connections. It's like something straight out of an Indiana Jones movie. Are you ready to move on to their second big discovery?
Hit me with it, I'm ready.
This one involves a water-filled pit they found on the ranch. To explore it, they brought in a rat hole rig.
A rat hole rig, what is that?
Well, it's a specialized drill designed to create these deep vertical holes, like drilling straight down from the top.
I'm picturing it.
Dwayne's plan was to use this rig to create a new hole on the ridge overlooking the water-filled pit.
So they were basically trying to drill their way into the unknown.
Pretty much. Did you catch what they found during the drilling process itself?
Oh yeah, they hit layers of wet clay and limestone. Right.
Yeah, but why is the limestone significant? I thought the Uinta Basin was mainly sandstone.
That's a great question. Limestone suggests a different geological formation than the surrounding sandstone. It's a clue that something unique might be happening beneath the surface in that particular spot,
Like what?
possibly indicating a cavity or a feature that's not typical for the area.
So what happened next? Did they hit their target?
As they kept drilling, There was this dramatic moment where the drill suddenly broke through into a cavern.
Wow, talk about a breakthrough moment. So did they dive into this newly discovered underwater cavern?
They did, but not without a few twists and turns along the way.
What happened?
Well, remember that incident they mentioned about the mutilated deer?
Oh, yeah.
That was creepy.
It fueled all sorts of speculation about skinwalkers, which are these shape-shifting creatures from Navajo folklore.
Seriously?
Some people believe these creatures were responsible for the deer's death, which added this whole other layer of mystery to the ranch.
So not only are they dealing with hidden caves and potential treasure, but now they have to worry about supernatural beings. This is getting interesting.
Right. But even with the spooky vibes they pressed on, the water table in the new hole they drilled was too high for a safe dive.
So what did they do?
They decided to explore the original water-filled pit instead.
I'm on the edge of my seat. What happened during the dive?
Dwayne was super cautious. He gave very specific instructions to Chad, who was going in with Ryan, the cameraman.
What were the instructions?
He told them to only observe and not to venture too deep into the underwater caverns.
Well, of course they didn't listen, right?
Well, let's just say their curiosity got the better of them. They went deeper than instructed, navigating through submerged tunnels and chambers.
And what did they find down there?
Get this. Submerged in the water was a large, intact wooden box. It was described as looking like an adult-sized Lingen log structure built with tree stumps and rope.
Whoa! A wooden structure underwater.
I know, right? It was clearly a sign of human construction, which rules out any natural explanation. And its intact condition suggested that it hadn't been washed in by a flood or anything like that.
So someone at some point in time built this thing and deliberately placed it in this underwater cave. But who and why?
Those are the very questions Dwayne and his team are trying to answer, and we'll continue to untangle those mysteries in part 2 of this deep dive.
I can't wait. This is just getting good.
Welcome back. You know that underwater structure we were talking about? It's really got me thinking.
Me too. It's just mind-boggling. Someone intentionally built that and placed it in a submerged cave.
It really makes you wonder who these ancient builders were
Yeah.
and what they were capable of.
What were they doing? Why go through all that effort?
Right. Like, what was the purpose of this submerged structure? Maybe there's a connection to those giant logs we talked about in the other cave.
You think it could have been the same people? The ones who put the logs in the cave also built this underwater structure.
It's definitely a possibility. The blog post mentions this historian John Barton. He believes the Uinta Mountains were used by the Aztecs as a place to stash their treasure.
Whoa. So this underwater box could be like some kind of Aztec hiding place.
Yeah.
A secret vault for their gold or something.
It's a fun theory, but we got to be careful about jumping to conclusions.
Yeah, that's true. There are a lot of stories about the Aztecs in this area, but not a lot of hard evidence.
Exactly.
So if it wasn't the Aztecs, who else could it have been?
It could have been any number of groups. Native American tribes, early settlers.
So many possibilities. Okay, but let's talk about the how for a minute.
Okay.
How did they manage to build something that complex underwater?
Yeah, it would have taken some serious ingenuity.
Like, how did they even get the materials down there?
Maybe they built it during a time when the water level was lower. Or they had some kind of system to control the water flow.
My mind is spinning with all the possibilities. So what's the biggest question you have right now?
For me, it all comes down to the environment. Was this structure always underwater? Or has the landscape changed that much over time?
To answer that, we need to think about the geology, right?
Exactly. The Uinta Basin has a really complex geological past.
Like, how complex are we talking?
Well, it was once covered by this huge inland sea.
Right, we talked about that.
Over millions of years, that sea receded. But there's also been uplift, erosions, volcanic activity, even glaciers. Any of those things could have reshaped the landscape and the water levels.
So the environment could have been completely different back then.
It's mind-blowing to think about.
It really makes you wonder if the stories about this area have some truth to them.
I know, right? Like, what if we've been overlooking or misinterpreting something this whole time?
So what other clues are we missing?
Yeah.
Where should the team look next?
Well, they've barely scratched the surface of this cave system.
You're saying there could be even more down there.
Who knows what other chambers, tunnels, or artifacts might be hidden in those depths? Imagine finding tools or pottery or even skeletons.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. That's the kind of stuff that really brings history to life.
And don't forget about the treasure.
Oh yeah, the treasure. Could they actually find gold or silver hidden in these caves?
It's definitely possible. The fact that they found these structures both above and below ground suggests that something valuable was being hidden or protected.
Man, this is way more than just a simple treasure hunt.
I know, right? It's like we're uncovering a mystery that could change how we understand history.
The geology, the history, the human stories, it's all connected.
That's what makes exploration so exciting.
Okay, so what's the big takeaway you want to leave our listeners with?
All right, so remember that underwater structure. How it got there still has me scratching my head.
Yeah, it's not like it just floated in there. Someone put
No.
it there, but how?
It really challenges what we think we know, right? Like if we rule out things like floods, how in the world did they get something that big down there?
Exactly. It's too big to just lower in from above.
Right, so either they had some crazy advanced technology
Or what? Spill the beans?
or the landscape has changed drastically since it was built.
You're saying the water level could have been much lower back then.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Maybe the caves weren't even flooded.
So we could be talking about something much older than we initially thought.
And it really highlights how important it is to consider the geological history of this place.
It's like a giant puzzle, and the pieces are finally starting to come together.
That's what I love about this kind of exploration. It's
Yeah.
all about connecting the dots.
So what's next for Dwayne and his team? Where do they go from here?
Well, they've got a lot more exploring to do.
Mm.
There could be even more hidden chambers and artifacts down there.
And maybe even some treasure.
Who knows? But the real treasure is the knowledge we gain along the way.
That's a great way to put it. If our listeners want to learn more about this, what should they do?
Well, I definitely recommend checking out the Discovery UK YouTube channel.
Yeah.
They have the full video of the team's cave exploration.
Perfect. And of course, we'll link to the blog post we've been referencing in the show notes as well. Any parting thoughts for our listeners?
Just think about this. If they intentionally built this structure underwater, what does that tell us about their understanding of the world? What secrets were they trying to protect?
Those are some great questions to ponder. This deep dive has been a wild ride full of twists and turns and mysteries galore. Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, happy exploring.